welcome back to the reboot of War Hero to Superhero. We're a little different. We're amidst the sunset, but we're still in the superhero battle room. So no buttons this time, but a little more calmer. So in the seat for our first reboot in 2024 is Richard Kaufman. He's been on our show before, but he's going to be coming from a different angle, and he's done a lot more amazing things. From being an Army veteran, Christian, husband, father, podcast guru, now with a book coming up on May 1st, and an author that serves the community and building an S Corp for his business. We just found out today. He's going to share more about his transformation from a different angle. So we're going to bring him on stage. Richard, thanks for joining.
Thank you so much for having me, brother. And I want to thank you and your bride. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't have the name of the podcast if it wasn't for you and your bride. And I wouldn't have this new book that's out if it wasn't for you and your bride. So I want to give you big shout outs, and I love you guys.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank Jesus for the inspiration that we had both times with the name, and also the book was just perfect timing. So congrats. May 1st is the launch. Go get your pre-buy book now. This podcast will be going live in a couple days. So you'll be able to get the pre-buy paper April 15th. And then then the digital and the paper goes live May 1st, $29.99 plus. He's giving $1,000 value. And Richard, could you tell him about that extra $1,000 value you're giving for paper pre-buys in the next couple of days?
Yeah, well, if they buy this book, and I got it sitting right here, it's my book. It teaches how to go from thought process to profit in 8 weeks. And I teach you how we've got over 2 million downloads. And the back cover is written by my mentor, Mr. John Lee Dumas, the #1 entrepreneur podcaster in the world, with $250,000 a month he makes with 1 million downloads. So he taught me, I'm teaching you. But if you get it for $29.99, you get the autograph copy. You also get enrolled into my Facebook group, which just has all the top podcasters in the world. And if you're a podcaster, I'm actually going to have you come on the show. I'm going to promote your show to 100,000 people. I'm going to promote your business, and I'm also going to do a Facebook ad for your podcast. And that all equals out to $1,000 for $30. You can't beat the price. How can you even beat that?
No, you definitely can't. And it's going to be more just even paper alone when it goes live and everything else, and as it grows. So with that, we're going to go a little back, because you weren't just, podcast guru like when you came out of the womb. So we're going to go a little back, but not too far back. We're going to talk about your military journey. What inspired you actually to join the military? Because everybody's inspiration is a tad different.
Well, you know my story. I had my first drink at 10, alcoholic by the age of 13, and I got thrown out of school at 16. So I'm a 9th grade dropout. And my thought process was, well, I can either go to jail or join the military. And I joined the military, and I did both. I actually went to jail and joined the military at the same time. And after 2 years, I got thrown out for being a drug addict and an alcoholic. But that was the first time. So, and then I got back in a second time, which is very rare. And I almost got thrown out for a second time, which is because I was a head case and I had problems. But 9/11 saved my life. And if it wasn't for 9/11, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. So 9/11 totally changed my life. And I was due to be thrown out at the end of September 2001. But because of what happened, and I begged my company commander to keep me, and they seen something different in me because God touched me. And they kept me, thank God. But I started back at E0 again. Within 3 years, became Soldier of the Year, non-commissioned officer. And I finished my career with 23 years in. I would have done 30, but I got hurt. And so I finished with 23 years between active duty and National Guard time.
Wow. So with that 23 years, which is a very long time, and a lot of our guests and listeners that are maybe not veterans and everything else, there is a difference, but there's not much of a difference. When you're active duty, it is every day and you get paid every day. But as a guardsman and as a reservist, you're not getting paid every day, but you're still in it every day. Because, example, this haircut, got to still stay in regs, still had to go keep the PT standards, still coming in and cramming roughly 30 days within a drill weekend, which is 2 days. So after those 23 years, what is the backstory for becoming a veteran? I'm not just talking about the 90, 180 days that the VA or the OPM for USA Jobs says, but what made you start becoming that veteran? Because some people just kind of toss it aside after a bit and totally ignore it. So what made you become a veteran?
Well, after the second time, um, I did it because my heart said, okay, you wasted 27 years of your life, and now it's time to pay it forward. And that's at that moment is when I started to take it very seriously. And that's when my love grew more for this country every day. And then when I got medically discharged in Labor Day 2012, which was the day that I attempted suicide, um, because I was no longer Sergeant Kaufman. Well, if I'm not Sergeant Kaufman, who's Richard? And it totally blew me away. And that was why I attempted suicide. Thank God my 6-month-old daughter saved my life. But for me, being a veteran is, I know that only 1% of the population ever raised their hand and said, I'm willing to die for the other 99%. So for me, I'm very proud of being a veteran. But when somebody asks me, what do I do today? I'm a podcast host, 2-time top selling author, speaker, resilience trainer, and a veteran. So I'm just no longer a veteran. That's the last thing that I tell everybody, because I've evolved and I've moved on. And a lot of people, when they get out of the military, they never move on or they don't evolve. And that's why you're talking about being war hero to superhero. So sometimes you have to evolve when you get out, and you can't just be, you're out 12 years and you're wearing camo still, and you're still wearing your BDUs. You're like, yeah, it's time to put it up, pal. It's time to move on and reinvent and reimagine your life. So I'm very proud to be a veteran, and I love my veteran brothers and sisters, but it's not all I am.
That's amazing, because right now I'm still working through that myself as a veteran transformation coach. I'm still wearing the OCPs and the haircut and everything else and whatnot. So I am making that transformation with all of you. So about that transformation, you talked about September, it was 2012. It was like basically your daughter saved you. So what made you now add to your identity to veteran? How did you make that transition?
Well, because I did, once I got back in, or once they decided to keep me, I did everything I could to become a super soldier. I did. I reclassified 3 times. I went to every school. I maxed every PT test. I maxed out my correspondence courses. I volunteered for everything. And then for them just to say, well, you can't see because you lost your vision. You can't shoot. So we don't need you anymore. So where do you go when you have to hang up that uniform? Because I'm sure that none of us, when we went to our recruiter, ever said, "Hey, Rich," or "Hey, Daniel," there's a shelf life. You have a shelf life. Prepare for it now. And for me, that was tough because I'm 42 years old with 23 years in the military. Where do I go from here? I lost 60% of my vision. I don't have money coming in, and I don't have a mission anymore. And a lot of us either end up looking at the bottom of a bottle, or we end up looking at the barrel of a gun. So that's when I decided to start telling my story, to let people know you can reinvent and reimagine yourself after getting out. There's life after the military. And that's my whole goal in life, just to help people find their mission again in life.
That's really awesome, because yeah, the bottom of the barrel or the bottom of the bottle is a really scary time in that particular realm. So you're now serving our community, and more than our community, because the impact that you're making and the people that you're connecting with and the opportunities that you're getting are amazing. But what made you truly, like, now we got the veteran transformation in that regard, but what made you specifically serve the community that you're serving now? Because, most of us, we could have said we've done enough service and we've met our quote unquote requirement.
Well, for me, it was a meeting with Gary Vaynerchuk, and I had lunch with Mr. Gary V. And I told him my story, and he's like, "So you're the comeback coach." And he's the one that named me the comeback coach. He's the one that told me to write the book. He's the one that told me to start a podcast. He said, because if there's 2,000 to 5,000 veterans getting out of the military every day, you're not the only one that's struggling. So tell your story and let other people know that it's okay not to be okay. And there's life after the military. So that's how it all started. And the first guest I ever had on my show, he had no arms, no legs. And as I'm interviewing him, his wife is holding up the phone to his ear because he's sitting in a jacuzzi in Aspen, Colorado, because he just got done skiing for the day.
Wow.
And that's when I decided, okay, I may not have all my vision, but I have 2 arms, I've got 2 legs. So I'm better off than a lot of people, and I'm feeling sorry for myself. So I'm going to interview the people that had it worse than me and are living better than me. And that's where it all started. And one of my latest episodes was a guy named Aaron Hale, veteran EOD guy, lost his eyesight and his hearing in Iraq, or I think it's Iraq. He just got done running the Badwater 135, being blind and deaf, and almost beat David Goggins' time in the run.
That is amazing. I remember I spoke to him briefly on Facebook, like texting back and forth. He actually does chocolate, if I remember correctly.
He does chocolate, and he does fudge. And I'm actually helping him with his podcast, trying to get it up and running. So, but he's an amazing dude. So I love having people like that on, that they've gone through hell, but now they're on their way to having an amazing life. And I always want to tell people, tell me how you did it. How did you how do you go from war hero to superhero in the bedroom and the boardroom? And I use that all the time. So I stole that from you, by the way.
Yeah, as long as you quote it and you send people back, I'm totally fine. Just like I'll send people to your books.
I always give you props, brother.
I know you do. I'm just saying online for legitimacy. So transitioning into the latter part of our show, we're going to be more laser focused. So we're not usually going the hour of power. So this is going to be short for the people that have that short but powerful attention span. What is your secret fuel? Because you've gone through so many pressures and whatnot, but there's still pressures in there. It's not like, hey, now I'm a podcast guru, I'm starting my S Corp, I'm going to MIC to speak, hopefully, in those types of things and all these opportunities. But what is your secret fuel when the pressure and the tough times come?
Well, if I go upstairs and I go into my wallet, I actually wrote in my obituary. And I have to live up to what I wrote. So if I'm going to be a great father, a great husband, a great son, a great businessman, honest, loyal, hardworking, I have to live up to that. So every day I read my obituary, make sure that I'm living up to that standard that I set for myself.
Wow. That I hope the AI, when I do the shorts, picks that up and makes that viral, because that was just like a to the face. Literally writing your obituary. I would highly recommend and challenge everybody to go over and do that, because we know our birthdays. We can know how many days that we're alive. Right now, for me, it's 11,934 days. I'm a math guy, but we don't know how many days we're going to have left. So we definitely need to go over and challenge ourselves to write our own obituary and ask, like, Lord, give us strength to go over and meet that and beyond, so we can go over and thrive. And with that, so I know that's like probably the best viral thing you're going to say, but we still got to have one more question to end. I feel like I should have just mic dropped and ended it. So 3 superhero tactics. So if I can't write my obituary or something, maybe I can start a little bit smaller than writing my obituary. What tactics would you give our audience?
First of all, find a good mentor. My mentor, I've had many mentors. My mentors for podcasting is Mr. John Lee Dumas, the #1 entrepreneur podcaster in the world. So number one is be humble. I would say be humble, be teachable, and find a good mentor. I think if you have those 3 things, there's nothing you can't do in the world. If you stay humble, be teachable, and find a good mentor. And in order to do all 3 of those, you have to be humble, and you got to be teachable, and you got to find the right mentor, because you could find the right mentor that's doing the wrong thing, and you're not going to get where you're going if you're following the wrong path.
Yeah, I've had somebody that wanted to mentor me before. He's supposedly a billionaire, but I'm like, after I started watching, I'm like, his life, his money, I wanted to do kingdom work, but I just couldn't go and follow. So you're right about that. You got to have the right mentor, right place, right time. So with that and finalizing out, we talked about earlier, and this is your time to shine and your time to go bring things back up. We obviously have the link at the bottom of Vertical Momentum Podcast, but again, you have an upcoming book. So do you want to talk about that or any other speaking engagements you got before we close out?
Yeah, well, this is the book. And this book cost me over $60,000. It cost me over 11,000 hours because I spent that money on taking courses from Gary Vaynerchuk, Patrick Bet-David, John Lee Dumas, Travis Johnson, Zach Babcock, Eric Allen. So it took me over 60 grand now and 11,000 hours to learn this. And I teach everything that 8 weeks if you want to be taught by me personally. But yeah, so the book is out. It's going to be out May 1st, officially May 1st. You're going to be able to get the audio version. I mean, ebook. You're going to be able to get the hard copy. And you're also going to be able to get personal training for me. I only have one slot available for personal training from me. I have a couple speaking gigs. I have one coming up this next weekend. I'm speaking with one of the gentlemen from, he used to be on The Sopranos. He was in the movie The Bronx Tale. We're going to be talking about resilience. And then the following weekend, I'm going to hang out with Kurt Balish down in North Carolina for a 3-day veterans retreat. So I got a lot of speaking gigs coming up. I'm going to be doing 300 my own podcast episodes, and I'm going to be on over 300 podcasts this year myself. So I got a busy schedule.
That is to say the least. So go find out all his followings at verticalmomentumpodcast.com. Go over and grab information from the links when you find this on YouTube and other places. And again, Richard, we want to thank you as our inaugural guest on our reboot of War Hero to Superhero, helping veterans transform their lives from the prayer room to the boardroom now, expanded and beyond. So thank you all for watching.